Welcome to the video. We're going to be taking a look at 3 key commands that you can create using the Project Logical editor of Cubase, which are going to be infinitely useful if you work with massive orchestral templates. So let me first of all provide a bit of context so you can understand the different situations that you would use these key commands in. So here I've got a template that I've created. It's my mega template, and inside this template I've got loads of different sample libraries loaded up as split articulations, meaning one instrument track with one sampler on light contact with one patch from said orchestral library loaded in. And this is generally just how I like to work. I will create all individual instrument tracks for each patch of a library and set them up ready and then disable them inside of this template. So if I want to work on a new project, I simply load this template. Cubase will load it instantly because everything is disabled, and then I just cherry pick out the patches I want to work with to create a palette of sound with, enable them inside of Cubase so they get loaded up, and then once I've done that I can start working on something. Now, one of the inherent drawbacks of working with massive templates, especially if you don't organize them, is that you're going to be scrolling up and down a lot through lots and lots of different tracks. And sure, you can add things into folders and try and, work as neatly as possible, but it still is annoying and time consuming. So one of the key commands that you can use, I showed you how to create in a previous video, and this will hide all of the disabled tracks inside of a project and only show you the tracks that you have chosen to activate, which is really useful because this essentially becomes your template that you're working on. Now, one of the downsides to this is although you can see all the patches that you'd like to work with, sometimes you might only use a few to start scoring with, and all the other stuff is just kind of in the way. So a quicker way to work is to use another key command to hide all of the stuff that you don't have anything on at the moment, so you haven't scored anything in, you haven't created any events for. And this allows you just to focus on the things you have started writing with and carry on with them and evolve them before you feel like bringing in more from the other patches that you chose to create your palette with. So we could go ahead and use the other key command again to switch back to the active tracks view, and then we can, add some more choirs like this just by cheating, and then switch back to our other view and you can see that they are there, and then we can carry on working with them. Now if we decide to delete any of these from this view, we can still go ahead and start re-recording things again, and we're not really going to get any issues. And if we just decide we don't want to use them at all and we want to hide these tracks from view because we're no longer going to be using them, just reapply the key command and hey presto, Cubase will update the view for you. So this is a really nice way to work when you're switching between the two different views. Now the other key command is for situations when you go, okay, I want to use patches out of, some woodwinds library that's in the template but it's disabled. So we hit this key command to show all of the tracks inside of the project, and then you can scroll through to whatever library you want to use, pick a patch, enable it, and once you're happy, you can switch back to the other view and you will see it there as well, so you can carry on working. So these 3 key commands alone may seem very simple, but they do require a little bit of setting up because of how Cubase works when it switches between different PLE commands. And I think I've finally cracked it with this one. So let's take a look at how you can set this up for yourself. Let's start by creating our 4 custom PLE commands inside of the Project Logical editor of Cubase. To access the Project Logical editor, just simply go to the Project tab at the top and then select Project Logical Editor from the drop-down menu. The other way you can access the PLE is by clicking on this little icon here that looks a bit like a house. It's called Set Track Visibility Agents. If you click on this, you'll get a pop-up menu, and at the very bottom you'll see the Project Logical Editor. Now we need to start by creating our 4 custom PLE commands. But before we do that, let me just quickly explain the PLE. In layman's terms, the top half of the PLE will allow us to program commands that tell Cubase what to look at. The bottom half of the PLE will allow us to tell Cubase what to do with those things we've told it to look at. At the bottom here, we have a tab called Function. By default, this will be set to transform. This means that anything we tell Cubase to look at and an action that we tell it to perform will transform the track. It will actually change the track or change something inside of the project. If we have this set to delete, instead of changing it, it will delete something that we've told it to look at. If we have this set to select, depending on what the conditions are here that we input, Cubase will select tracks under specific conditions. We just want to focus on using transform. Let's start by creating our first PLE command. This one I called hide disabled tracks, and it's similar to the other video that I created. However, we do need to set it up slightly differently. First of all, let's add a filter by clicking the plus sign here. You'll notice there are a number of different options underneath the tabs. For the first tab, we need to set our filter target as property. The condition, we need to set this as property is set, and for parameter 1, we need to set this to is disabled. So Cubase has been told to look at any tracks that are disabled in the project. Now we need to tell it what to do with those tracks. Add an action target by clicking the plus sign, and then under the action target we're going to select track operation, and for the operation we want it to hide track and make sure parameter 1 is set to enable. So any tracks that are disabled in the main project will then be hidden. Go ahead and store this preset and name it something that you can recall easily. I named mine Marcus Hide Disabled Tracks, and you can see it here in the drop down along with the other PLE commands that we're going to be creating. The next PLE command we need to create I call Show Active Tracks, which is the view here that we're looking at that allows us to see only the stuff that we have active in the project. You may be wondering why we need an additional function for this, and that's so Cubase doesn't get confused when it switches between the other two view states that I showed you. First of all, we need to create 3 filter targets, so click the button 3 times. We need to set all of these filter targets to property. In the first filter target, we need to set it as property is set, event is empty. So Cubase will look for anything that does not contain an event. For the second filter state, again, leave it as property, property is set, but we need to change this to is hidden. So if our track is empty and is hidden, Cubase will look at that track. For the final property, we need to set this to property is not set and then is disabled. So Cubase is only going to look for tracks that have no events on, that are hidden from the view and are not disabled. Our action target is going to be track operation. The operation itself is going to be hide track, and the parameter is going to be disabled. You want to again store this as a preset and give it a name that you'll be able to easily recall. I called mine Marcus Show Active Tracks. For our third PLE command, we need to create 2 filter targets. Each one of these needs to be set to media type is. The conditions for both need to be left as equal, and in parameter 1 for the first filter, set this to MIDI, and in parameter 2, leave this as audio. So Cubase is going to look for any tracks that are MIDI tracks and audio tracks. In the action target, we need to create a new filter and set the action to track operation. The operation we need to choose is hide track, and then we want to set the parameter as disable. So this means it will turn off any hidden tracks and make sure they're showed in the main project. So it will unhide everything that's an audio track and a MIDI track. At the top right, we also need to make sure the bool is set to OR and not AND. So if something is a MIDI track or an audio track, Cubase will disable it from being hidden and show it in the project. Again, store this as something you can recall. I named mine Marcus Show All Audio and MIDI Tracks. The final PLE command we need to create is Show All Tracks with Events. This one's really easy to set up as it only uses one filter target and one action target. Create a new filter target and set this to Property. Set the condition as Property is set, and then Event is empty as your parameter. In the action targets, we need to create a new action and set this to Track Operation, the operation to Hide Track, and then parameter 1 Enable. Again, store this as a preset using the plus sign. For me, I name mine Show Tracks with Events. Now that we set up our PLE commands, we need to assign keystrokes to some of them and also create a macro in the key commands window. To open up your key commands window, go to Edit and then Key Commands. First, let's start by creating a macro. At the bottom of the key command window, you'll see Show Macros. Click on this button and then create a new macro. Name it something that you'll be able to find easily. I'll call mine Marcus YouTube Macro. Now we can assign PLE commands that we've just created in a chain, so Cubase will execute more than one command in a sequence. We need to assign 2 of those PLE commands to this new macro, so Cubase can execute both of them in a sequence. In the main commands window, we need to scroll down till you see Process Project Logical Editor. Expand this folder and Cubase will show you all of the PLE commands that you have created. For our first PLE command, we simply select Hide Disabled Tracks and then go down to the bottom right and add this to our macro that we have selected. The second PLE command we need to assign is Show Active Tracks. So select this and then click on Add, and Cubase will add that to your macro chain here. So when we assign a keystroke to this macro we've created, Cubase will activate our Hide Disabled Track PLE command and then activate our Show Active Tracks PLE command. Now we need to assign this macro to a keystroke. Go back to your commands view and then navigate up to a folder called Macro. You'll see that you'll have your new macro available to assign a key command to. To assign a key command, just type in a keystroke in the typing key box and then click Assign, and Cubase will assign it to a keystroke. If there is a key command shortcut already assigned to a keystroke that you add in, Cubase will provide a note of it at the bottom and allow you to navigate to said key command to make sure you don't overwrite it, or if you don't use it, you're happy to overwrite it. To give you an example of this, I'm going to delete this key command and use one that's already got something assigned. So you can see this keystroke already has something assigned to it. If I hit select, it will take me to it so I know what it is. Once you've assigned a keystroke to your macro, the next thing to do is assign the other 2 PLE commands to their own keystroke. So go back to your Process Project Logical Editor folder, and for your Show All Audio and MIDI Tracks PLE command we created, select it and assign a keystroke. And do the same with your other PLE command, Show Tracks with Events. Once you've done this, click OK, and you'll be able to now activate those 3 different key commands inside of Cubase. Voila! We can show all tracks, show active tracks, show tracks with events, and seamlessly switch between them without any issues. Hopefully you found this video useful. If you've got any PLE commands you'd like to share, then be sure to leave them in the comments box below, And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.